Hey guys, welcome back to Altaz-Review, where we talk about the latest games and all kinds of gaming news. After a long wait and some divisive trailers, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has finally been introduced to the world. Everyone has a different take on how well the game represents its characters, its premise, and even how well it defines the Arkham Universe. But given the direction that Rocksteady has been walking, I feel like we need to take a look back at what the Arkham games originally set out to be. So let's talk more about the Batman Arkham games, what we loved about the Batman Trilogy plus Origins, and how different things are now. So let's talk about the one that started it all, Arkham Asylum. Arkham Asylum is the first game that set up the format and style of the Arkham series. It's a big Batman game that everyone could only dream of. And Arkham Asylum included every aspect of Batman as a detective, as a superhero, and the mental relationship of Bruce Wayne and Batman. Arkham Asylum also used its setting to take full advantage of all the colorful villains and their different methods of psychological terror. Whether it's the crazy inmates, the paranoid police force, or cultish henchmen, every minor enemy and every main villain has a lot of personality and keeps the setting true to Batman lore. It also shows how the Joker sets up his grand plans and how he can bring together all the various villains under the same game plan, whether they like it or not. Arkham Asylum is where all the biggest villains serve their time. So it's a fairly scary thought when you're trapped inside while all those dangerous villains have taken control of the asylum. Arkham Asylum uses comic book lore and a deep understanding of the characters to make a Batman game that feels respectful to its fans. Then we have Arkham City, arguably the best game in the series. Now that the base has been established in Arkham Asylum in terms of story writing, combat, and the potential of villains, Rocksteady went big by allowing players to explore the whole city freely and seeing all the most iconic locations. It also focused double time on the story. Arkham Asylum wasn't exactly simplistic, but it did miss when it came to certain plot points, especially the final boss fight. But Arkham City used the right characters and the perfect plot to create a masterpiece. Arkham City was essentially perfect, since it continued all the well-executed ideas and elements of the Arkham series without any of the mistakes, and with a story that continues to live in our minds as one of the greatest stories and one of the greatest endings, especially as a Batman story. One of the more controversial installments was Arkham Origins, which wasn't made by Rocksteady but continued the Arkham series, with a prequel. It shows us the first time Batman deals with the Joker, and how he dispatches all of his greatest enemies in one night right before Christmas. Although many people have issues with some of the combat additions and a few story elements, Arkham Origins gives every character an interesting past, with their heroes and villains being younger and less experienced, but also showing us how they ended up the way they are in the present-day storyline. It also gave us one of the best Batman fights in gaming with the Deathstroke fight. And for the finale of the Arkham series, we had Arkham Knight, the culmination of the setups from the previous games. Rocksteady came back with some big ideas and a big flashy end to the story of Batman in Arkham City. This was the first time we finally got to see the Batmobile, and did we see a lot of that. Arkham Knight brought all kinds of characters like Nightwing, Tim Drake as Robin, and Neil Lucius Fox, and spoiler alert, we even meet the Red Hood himself. Unfortunately, this was also the entry where Rocksteady became a little unsteady with its writing and ideas. The Batmobile was overused and kind of forced, and even then, most of the situations weren't all that fun. The Arkham Knight himself, who was basically one of the main villains, ended up having a lackluster reveal when it comes to his identity, especially since most Arkham fans have basic knowledge of Batman comics and lore. The core story of Arkham Knight was a little similar to Arkham City, since Batman still has lingering effects of the same disease, causing him to fight a mental battle with a Joker persona that threatens to overtake him. Instead of an actual disease, it's a mental illness this time. No matter where you go, you'll see projections of the Joker in billboards, on the streets, and even in cutscenes. Although Arkham Knight had a few weaker elements, it still stayed true to the Arkham series formula and all the ideas that we love. And it marked the ending of Batman's career as the world finally learns his identity thanks to Scarecrow. Even though he won the war, Batman's identity was revealed, and it's tough to remain Batman and Bruce Wayne both at the same time. The secret ending in Arkham Knight shows us Batman flying back to Wayne Manor while the citizens crowd the gate. And then we see Wayne Manor explode, leaving a question mark on the future of the Dark Knight. In terms of story, lore, and presentation, this felt like the end of the series since there's really no way to keep the series going after such a wild turn of events. That's also why it's hard to connect the later games to the Arkham series. Gotham Knights doesn't really continue the formula in terms of quality or story. It's clearly trying, but in trying to update the old combat system that's been used throughout all the games, and include more characters to play with, Gotham Knights kind of lost the environment and the feelings from the main series. But even with that in mind, it's harder to look at the Suicide Squad game and connect it to the same universe at all. Although technically part of the same universe, Suicide Squad plays around with the DC cast so much that it feels kind of like a non-canon spin-off. The premise is already a little crazy. Brainiac just showing up and brainwashing the Justice League is better used as a what-if scenario rather than as a canon continuation. Seeing our Batman, the same one we took control of to defeat all kinds of city-level threats, be reduced to a lackluster boss fight again, and that too against the Suicide Squad, it's kind of an insult. The Suicide Squad may not be useless, but they're definitely not that good. But again, the only reason it feels off is because the whole plot doesn't fit with the Arkham series. It shouldn't mess with the Arkham Universe at all, and instead, they can play around with the characters by creating new backstories and new settings. Even the combat has taken a huge turn in the new games. The Arkham combat system is one of the most complete combat styles in gaming. Even after 4 games of essentially the same ideas in combat and stealth, save for a few new gadgets and takedowns, we haven't gotten tired of playing as Batman. In fact, it works so well that Marvel's Spider-Man used the same core ideas for all 3 of their games too, and it still works great after all these years. So when Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad changed up those ideas to use looter-shooter tactics and RPG elements, it became a little tedious. The delicate balance of thoughtful combat with repetitive counters was disrupted, and with so many added mechanics, all the additions led to these games feeling a little lacking when it comes to animations and visual details. Even if the graphics were improved, the flashy numbers, colors, and overstimulating visuals don't let you appreciate any of the details that might have been done well. I won't go more in depth with the newer games just yet, but what I will say is that these new games have taken a far departure from the Arkham series that we know and love. With this new direction, Rocksteady should commit to creating a new universe for these new events and different gameplay. And we should all accept that Arkham Knight was the true finale for the Arkham series. This isn't exactly an analysis of the Suicide Squad, but rather a revisit to the OG Arkham series. Whether we get an official statement or not, it's important to admit that these new games aren't Arkham games. They're their own thing. And as long as we recognize that, we'll be able to judge these games for what they do in their own world rather than how well they carry a legacy that isn't meant to be their burden. But let me know what you guys think of the direction that Rocksteady is going in and what kind of games you'd like to see in the future of the DC heroes. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Until then, I hope I see you in the next video.